we were completely overwhelmed by the responses that we got. I mean, I couldn't believe it when they would come and tell me, ma'am, today we have 200, today we have 300. A lot of them have logged in through YouTube. And possibly one of the reasons, that's a little bit a naughty remark on my part, one of the possible reasons is that, we didn't really charge for it because we wanted to spread the message and share the immense knowledge base embedded in people best in the occupation like you. And of course, Sakshi and Priyanka have taken wonderful sessions. Some more will be taken by other faculty. But having said that, my advice to the participants is, please make the most of this brilliant opportunity. I mean, to get somebody who is top 1% most cited scholar based on Web of Science database, that's a rare opportunity. So please do not even miss out even a single word of what Professor Dubey discusses with you. But most importantly, please do not be afraid to question. There is a proverb which says, he who does not ask, he who does not question is afraid to learn. So I'm sure, like in my inaugural address the other day, I told you, if you have dared to become a teacher, and believe me, I get a lot of corporate executives to take courses at the university, and some of them just chicken out saying, my goodness, I thought the corporate world was tough. This is even tougher. You're asking for outcomes. You are giving me that responsibility. Then there is technology to be used. There is to be research-based teaching that we ask for. And they chicken out and they said that many of them have told me, hey, the corporate world is simpler. So when I tell you participants that if you have dared to become a teacher, and I sincerely hope, like in the past, it is not the easy option that you have opted for. If you've dared to become a teacher, then please never stop learning. And Jaypee Institute of Information Technology, particularly Jaypee Business School, is committed to bringing many such programs, many such stalwarts in the industry like Professor Rameshwar Dubey ji to you. I'm thankful. I'm really thankful to technology that has enabled something which we always did in the offline platform. Many of you would have to travel to come here. There's boarding, lodging, staying expenses, and none of that really is required. And hence, since the reach out of knowledge is so rapid, so convenient, there's no reason why any of you should be left behind in your quest for improvement. Professor Dubey, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to you for having agreed to take 2 sessions with the young men and women assembled here. Many of them are professors, many of them are research associates, PhD scholars, and they all know the significance of the transition that Indian education system is undergoing. We are now standing at the cusp of a major transformation, and perhaps I can facilitate, but leading this transformation is young people like you. And it's my earnest request for each one of you. We have an international conference scheduled between 24th and 26th February 2022. I do hope you will use the knowledge that has been imparted for this FDP at this FDP to write papers and contribute the same. Professor Sakshi, Professor Priyanka will email all the requirements. Professor Dubey, this is not really the forum, but subsequently I would like to interact with you with regard to that conference. It will be such an honor to associate you with it if you can possibly spare some time. It's in the online mode, it's in the hybrid mode. We'll have both.
Thank you very much.
I do hope you will be able to spare time for us for this. So with these words, a very, very warm welcome, Professor Dubey, and thank you ever so much for being with us, for caring enough, for sharing. Caring for sharing. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. First of all, it's very difficult for me to digest so many things because we are not used to listening. So it's okay, good. First of all, let me tell you one thing, that it's a nice introduction. Even I was amazed to hear that these things have happened so far. Yes. But many of you would be wondering, that's what I want, one message. And I just caution one thing here, that I just got a message that Google Chrome is going to update in next few 5 minutes. So it may happen that my system may get off, but then I will switch off. So please, participants, do not mind. I just got a message that Google Chrome is going to update. I don't know how this happens. Okay, not an issue. See, the message to my young community is that, we always look up to the success. Actually, let me tell you one thing. Nobody succeeded without failures. And let me tell you one thing. At one point of time, I actually was about to commit my suicide just because I was not able to do well in my PhD, actually. It took me 6 years for PhD, and my thesis was rejected because of the factor analysis. And since I fall in love with factor analysis, my thesis was rejected in NIT, and it took 23 months, 12 days to get the final approval from the reviewers, and then I was awarded a PhD. And that pain I can never forget. Due to my PhD journey, I lost my mom. I could not attend a funeral, actually, and this pain is still with me. So it's not easy. So my question is that many people fear failures. I failed. I tried to get into IIT. Everybody was thinking that Rameshwar will get into IIT. I ended up into Bengal Engineering College, Shippo. That was one of the biggest failure. Second failure, I wanted to join Fisher Business School, US for a PhD. Same year, my mother died for the cancer, and my family pressure and everything was there, so I did it. Fine, I could not go to Fisher Business School or Ohio State University, but I don't regret. I am proud to say that in Indian education system is very good. It's up to us to take it to the next level, because we are proud that our Indian education system is very strong, because all the classical universities in India, including Allahabad, Calcutta University, Jadavpur, BHU, all these top universities. And you'll be very surprised to know that when I was in Cambridge last month for examining one of the PhD thesis, actually, I met a professor. He said, "Do you know India? You're coming from India?" He said, "I know about India about one thing. You know what? India is about BHU." According to Cambridge, the BHU is the only university in India which is at par with Cambridge and Oxford. This is the statement. So we should be proud that we have such universities in our country which had created excellence at one point in the time. But due to many reasons, things have gone wayward, and we could not maintain. So we are proud that we have a lot of excellent universities. And in fact, if you see in recent FT ranking and in many ranking, you see that Indian universities are doing wonderful. So it's those days are gone when Indian universities are not doing well. And let me tell you one thing, that today we should be feeling proud of Indian degrees, actually. Indian scholars are really capable, given an equal opportunity. Problem is that we don't get guidance. We don't get such kind of training. And that is the reason we try to judge people that he or she is not capable. That's wrong. So we have a lot of capabilities. So that's why we should be proud of Indian universities and Indian institutions. And of course, thanks to the current system, that they are trying to become more aggressive and they are taking up the challenges to the next level. That's a good thing. So my session is more inspired because I have seen as an editor and I've seen as a reviewer that there are many issues are there. There are many issues I find. And I want to caution all the participants and all the professors who are present here. The research should not be driven because of the tools, actually. Unfortunately, due to SPSS and R package, there are so many softwares are now available, and they have made the task very simpler. Unfortunately, these are not actually solving your problem, but these are actually multiplying your problems to a large extent, because we actually fail to look deeply into each aspect. Because see, when we talk about descriptive statistics, you just click the button, you'll get the outcome, and you believe that you know statistics. That's not the truth. That's not the reality. Until unless you do not know fundamental. For example, I always begin with one question. I've seen many people have been asked one question. What is your sample size? Students say my sample size is 300 or 350 or 400, whatever it may be. If they are like using survey-based research, I'm not talking about those people who are using longitudinal study. I'll also talk about that.
I guess his internet connection got disconnected. Sir, you're not audible. Oh yeah.
Now, yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, sorry. So I told you that it is going to be a problem, not an issue. Thank you. So what I'm saying that when people ask one simple question to everyone, what should be the appropriate sample size? You said 300. And I've seen that the examiners and the professors even debate and argue, no, your samples is not good enough. You should have collected 700, 800, 900, 1000, 1200. All these questions comes into the mind. And why I'm talking all these things? Because the basic premise of factor analysis should be correct, because unfortunately people are using these kind of techniques without knowing the fundamentals why factor analysis is needed actually. And you don't believe me, my thesis was rejected because of one simple wrong interpretation of factor analysis, because nobody was there to teach you. So we should learn from higher textbook. I read a higher textbook for 5 years to understand. It took me 5 years. I don't know how many. I'm not a good, very intelligent guy actually. That's why I couldn't crack IIT JEE. But to be very precise, I'm telling you, it took me 5 years. Took me 5 years to understand that higher, and still I had a lot of concerns actually. So I did a mistake. I accept it. As a human being. At least I'm happy that I didn't copy it and paste it. I did my own. I did wrong actually. I did mistake. Unfortunately, in India, actually, what happened? When you fail, actually, people criticize you. It seems that they treat you like a criminal actually. And I faced that situations. During that 23 months. People used to ask several times, what is the status of your thesis report, Rameshwar? What is the thesis of your thesis report? And after the day when I got my PhD, nobody came to me to ask, what is the status now? It pinched you. But let me tell you one thing. But I thanks to those people who pinched me, because that has taught me one thing. I decided that day. Now I'll reach to that level that people will use my work and cite my work and base my results. So failure is not a bad thing. I tell you, those who have never failed, they never reach to the top level, please. So failure is very, very important. So, and we should appreciate, we should celebrate that. That is what one of the messages I've written on the posted on the LinkedIn. I said that instead of publishing in A category journal or C category journal or B category, I would like to fail in FT rank journal on a continuous basis, because even the failure in FT rank journal teaches you more than publishing in 80s or hundreds of A star. So we have to develop that sense of pride and sense of it. So we in Indian culture, the only thing that I need to respect to all the professor, please encourage failure actually. If those who have never failed, they can never appreciate what is success. And let me tell you one thing. Because due to fear of failures, actually people are outsourcing statistical answers. I'm sorry to say, I don't know what is happening now, but in 2013-14, I've seen that there was a lot of agencies were operating within the Maharashtra regions and all these regions who used to provide data analysis to the students, and the people are defending thesis based on this statistical service. Why? Why not you can learn these things? And that's the problem. So, I don't blame the students who are outsourcing statistical analysis, because they have a sense of failure. They feel that if they fail, they do mistakes, they will be criticized, which is unfortunate part of our story. In India, people who commit murder, they are celebrated like a rock star. But if people commit mistake while innovating something or doing research, they criticize and they're treated like a dustbin, like a dust in the dustbin. That's the unfortunate part. But we should come out from that. And that's the reason why I'm saying that why in India, we are capable of innovating, but we kill the creativity and innovation by treating them that, you are good for nothing actually. So my request to you that let's appreciate, let's celebrate the failures actually. Now coming to the factor analysis. Now before factor analysis, the fundamentals should be clear. People talk about sample analysis and sample size, and many of you have listened to this argument that what should be the exact sample size, and there are many formulae, there are many rules. There's no one, because see, there's a difference between statistics and mathematics. In statistics, there is no one definition. Let me tell you one thing. It's all convenience-based definition. What suit me well, that is the reality. So that's why there is a lot of scope for the debate and arguments actually. So everybody come out with their own proposal. Okay, if you have a number of say you have number of 40 items in your questionnaire, not constructs, items in your question. So your sample size should be 40 into 10 times, that is almost 400. That's a rough rule, rough estimate. So depending upon your confidence interval, depending upon your all the factors, you finally come out with your sample size, and which changes depending upon your confidence interval. But why to confuse a lot? Why to confuse a lot? Why not I answer simply that according to the central limit theorem, if sample size is large enough, the distribution becomes normal. And since factor analysis, regression analysis, conformative factor, and the basic premise of all these parametric testing is that the data assumed to be normally distributed. And that is how the choice of scale comes into the picture. Why we are going for nominal, why we don't prefer nominal scale in psychometric study? Why do we prefer interval scale? The logic is that if you use interval scale, you have a large variation, and variation is the basic premise of your normality for your parametric testing. So central limit theorem says that as long as my sample size is large enough, I'm quite confident to perform my parametric test. So why there is a one formula for that? That means if I have my data, if I have collected my sample which represent the population, and if I perform my assumption test and I found that skewness value is well within plus or minus 2, and kurtosis value is well within -7 and 7 according to Curran et al. In 1996. And my mean mode median values are almost close to each other, my data is normally distributed. Simple. So if my assumptions test on data satisfy or meet these criteria, I think my sample size is quite enough to perform my rest of the analysis. I can perform my hypothesis testing. Simple. People talk about, have you performed ANOVA? Oh my God. In regression analysis, ANOVA is inbuilt. So why to ask for ANOVA and test separately just because I'm performing regression analysis, and by default ANOVA analysis is there? So I have seen people repeating steps unnecessarily without having any adequate rationale, without having any logic actually. And that's what I'm saying, that statistics should not be taught like an SPSS or tool based, rather than we should clarify the philosophy, underlying philosophy. My question is that why I need factor analysis? Why? I've seen there is a growing trend among the people. I am using factor analysis. Unfortunately, people doesn't know that when you talk about factor analysis, it means there are two kind of analysis. One is exploratory factor analysis, one is conformative factor analysis. Why do you use exploratory factor analysis? Why? And why you need factor analysis? Are you testing the dependence relationship or interdependence relationship? If you're testing dependence relationship, then why you're using factor analysis? If you're testing interdependence relation, then you use factor analysis. So until unless my rationale, my logic, and unfortunately I've seen that most of the time in top journals, the articles are getting rejected just because they have used unnecessary statistical tools, which doesn't make any sense, rather than what is the guiding philosophy of your research. And unfortunately, this thing is not clear to people. What is the philosophy of your research? See, I always tell people, how many of you have read about Saunders et al. 2007 research framework called Onion Research Framework? How many of you have heard actually? Many of you have read, but many of you have not understood well also. How many of you know you can actually Onion Research Framework? And let me tell you one thing, please read Saunders et al. Textbook, Business Research Method, and please read the Onion Research Framework. Without that, you will never have a command over research. You need to clarify that your research is grounded in positivism approach. Now, what is positivism? Positivism research means there has to be a theory. Based on theory, you develop a model. From there, you develop your research hypothesis. And then in order to test your research hypothesis, you formulate your research design, which enable you to gather data. Depending upon the nature of the data, you will now perform various statistical analysis. If you are creating a scale, then perform exploratory factor analysis. Otherwise, directly move to confirmatory factor analysis. And why you're performing confirmative factor analysis? Because when we talk about reliability and validity, so the validity of the constructs are examined through confirmatory factor analysis. If the constructs are reflective in nature, go by Fornin and Larsson 1981 recommendations. If the constructs are not like reflective, they are formative in nature, you cannot perform the validity test as recommended by Fornell and Larsson 1981. Then you have to use a new test called HTMT criterion test as suggested in 2015. I'll get back. This is story actually, don't worry. I always like to create a story because this is like introduction section of your chapter. This is similarly introduction section of my why. What motivates me for taking this session? Why I chose factor analysis. I could have opted for other topic also because I've seen that factor analysis is the most misunderstood topic among the students or scholars and the professors. And again, there's a problem. Especially the people who are using survey-based research. Even the people who are using secondary data, I'm also going to caution them because again, from where you gather data, what is the authenticity of data? That's the question that I'm going to ask. I'm going to discuss each and every aspect. So the question is that, unfortunately, and now the people also, I've seen that people performing exploratory factor analysis and confirmatory factor analysis with the same data set. This is not true. This is wrong. Because exploratory factor analysis is conducted in order to redefine your constructs, in order to redefine your theoretical model, in order to redefine your measuring items. And after performing exploratory factor analysis, you again collect new data with the new set question which you have refined based on exploratory factor analysis, and then perform confirmative factor analysis with new data set. You cannot use the same data set for exploratory and confirmatory, which people are doing. And that was a mistake which I did, and I was asked to recollect new data set, and that's why it took 23 months. Well, if I would not have done that mistake, and luckily my thesis was examined by a professor who was an editor-in-chief of Journal of Marketing, which is FT ranked journal. So it's all for it. It was a pain for me that time. I was cursing that why God chose me. And I was the first case in the entire my university institute that I was the first guy who got thesis rejected, and it never happened. And I was thinking, why God chose me? Now I can understand the answer that God wanted me to take from that position to this. If I would not have done the mistake, probably I would not have become the master of factor analysis. So remember. So it's something irony, that if you don't fail, you don't become a good coach. It's an irony. And this is what depicted in Chak De, that when Shah Rukh failed to score a goal in the final, and not only that is Shah Rukh, if you see the recent European this cup, football, who follows football club, I don't know, but the English coach was one of the guy who missed his plenty shootout against Germany, and he had a pain till now. So that is something I'm telling you. Failure is very important. And I'm proud that I failed in my life, and I love to fail in my life. At least failure teaches me something. It triggers me actually. It doesn't let me to sleep for an hour. Because after that failure, I didn't never slept for more than 10 hours, 10 years. In fact, actually, I saw the second movie. The first movie I saw, Kite, in the 2010, and the second movie I saw in 2019. That was the pain. That was the impact of the pain, you know. So that is what I'm saying, that, you know, failure is very important. And I would not have learned these things in detail. So that's what I'm saying, again, cautioning. How many of you have been using same data set for exploratory and conformative factor analysis? Can you raise question? Can tell me, just really don't feel shy, you know, don't feel shy actually. Let's share, you know. Come on, everyone. How many of you know that, you know, with the same data set, you can perform both the analysis? Frankly speaking, 99.99% actually knows that with the same data, I can perform both the same kind of analysis. This is the problem, because we don't know basically. And unless you don't have a proper guideline and proper direction, we cannot move actually. And that's very important. So now I'm going to take an opportunity to go through that. I have prepared my presentations into two structures, two stages. First of all, I'll clarify our theoretical foundation, because theory is very important. And then I will take you the practice. Practical things don't take much time. It's a half an hour job. Anybody can do. But theory is very important, because it's very important to understand the importance of explorative factor analysis, because unfortunately, I have seen that there is a growing trend within the research community that statistics have been the most misused topic, and we have to caution this. We have to be very important. So taking forward, and I'm taking an opportunity to share the slide. Okay. Thank you very much. So this is what so this is my presentation. So I'm going to start my presentation on the, okay. Next. We need to understand the nature of the studies. And the factor analysis is one of the important component of empirical research. So empirical study can be classified into three broad categories. A theory building, that means you need to generate or develop a theory in the absence of a concrete theory, especially when you are entering into the new research, then you talk about creating a new theory. There is a second component called theory testing, basically. So how do you test your theory? So when you talk about theory testing, you talk about conformative factor analysis, goodness of fit test, and you use all the econometric tools, basically the people who are dealing with the longitudinal data. So again, conformative factor analysis, goodness of fit test is applicable for the people who are dealing with interval data and cross-sectional data or multi-level data, and econometric tools are used in particular in case of longitudinal data. Now, there is another scope of the study, which is called theory building plus theory testing, which is called pragmatic philosophy, that you build a theory and then finally test the theory. That's the objective. How to develop your research questions? Let me tell you one thing. Why do we perform factor analysis? This should evolve from your research question. Because your research questions lay down the foundation of the study, and it has to be through extensive review of literature. From there, you generate research gaps, and based on your research gaps, you should have your research questions, because research question is very important. Because nature of the research question, if you ask what, that means what refers to variables, constructs, and that's why you need to perform explorative factor analysis. Now, how to develop my appropriate research questions? So every research questions have three components: what, why, and how. And this is grounded, if you want to know what, why, and how, It is well mentioned in David Wetten's seminal article in 1989 published in Academy of Management Review. And 1989 is particularly very special year for the management scholars, management researchers, social science researchers, because that year has produced world-class theory-driven articles, including Eisenhardt of 1989, and so many works are there. I'll discuss. In order to answer questions what? Through literature review, you derive your factors, variables, constructs, or you conduct exploratory research. Now, exploratory research could be through primary methods or secondary methods. Now, it depends upon which approach is suitable for you. Now, through primary methods, we have observations, interviews, focus group, especially those who are, I don't know how many of you are using, those who have been studying interpretive structural modeling, which is considered as an alternative of factor analysis. Through focus group, they identify the constructs and factors. Of secondary methods, you have a literature search, online search, and through case study, you can identify. In order to answer why, that means you need to have a theory. And let me tell you one thing, exploratory factor analysis only should be used to create theory, to build theory actually, not to test theory. To test theory, you have to use conformative. And this is the fundamental mistake people does. When you do not have adequate theoretical arguments or debate, or you want to develop a new construct, you need to define your new construct, then you have to go for exploratory factor analysis, not conformative factor analysis. Now, in order to answer question how this how do you answer this question? So there are two approaches to answer how. Either you go for qualitative data or data-driven analysis, especially when you collect data. Now, data could be cross-sectional data. That means you collect data at one point in the time, especially those behavioral students who collect data using a survey based, like marketing students or the human resource and psychology students who collect data at one point in the time. It's called cross-sectional data. Or the financial management students who generally collect data over a period of time for last 10 years data or 15 years data, depending upon the, so time. So a data which is gathered over a period of time, so over a period is called longitudinal data, okay? So this is the framework, and this is my framework actually. So you won't find in any textbook. This is based on my own years of experience. This is what I developed. Okay. Coming to the next. What? What do you mean by what actually? How do you define your what? That means you need to define your variables or constructs. Now, it's very important to define the properties actually. That's what I was mentioning. Until unless you're not sure about the properties, you cannot use your tool. Unfortunately, people without understanding the properties, just they perform analysis. It's like garbage in and garbage out. And that's the problem actually. There is a problem. So you should understand what is the nature of your constructs, whether it's a reflective in nature or formative. Because if the data, if the constructs is not reflective in nature, you cannot perform conformative factor analysis suggested by Fornan and Lasker 1981. And that's a fundamental mistake. Or if you're not having a reflective constructs, you cannot perform structural equation modeling, which is nothing but is an umbrella term that includes factor analysis and hypothesis testing. So you cannot perform structural equation modeling, which is based on covariance-based matrix. Yes, you can use variance-based structural equation modeling, which is also known as partially square regression analysis. That's PLS structural equation modeling, but you cannot use covariance based, which is using package called MOS or Lizrel, or there are many other packages available. So depending upon the nature of the reflective constructs of normative constructs and what measurement scale is very important, and that means either you are adapting scales or creating a new scale. Remember, when you are adapting existing scales or using well-studied scale, in this case, you're not supposed to perform exploratory factor analysis, because exploratory factor analysis objective is to create new scale. So when you are already using established scale, then why you're performing explorative factor analysis? This is the question that everybody will ask. And I've seen people already using established scale and then they perform explorative factor analysis, creates a big question mark that have you understood the underlying philosophy of explorative factor analysis? Why to perform exploratory factor analysis? Exploratory factor analysis is conducted when you could not define constructs, or you need to define or redefine the existing constructs and your items. Then you have to perform exploratory factor analysis. Otherwise, you directly perform the validity test using conformative factor analysis. That means you just perform construct validity test, which includes your convergent validity and discriminant validity, which I'll discuss in depth. Don't worry. Now coming to the next. What constitutes a theoretical contribution? So when you talk about theory, it should have three perspectives: what, why, and how. In order to answer what, you have adopted two approaches: literature review or exploratory studies. Why these constructs and how they are related, this association, this relationship among the variables, either you create using structural equation modeling or you develop based on the theory and then further test it. So you need to have a sound background of theory or theory. So you need to know the theory, which theory you are, based on which theory you are developing a theoretical model. And this is very, very important. Without understanding the basic premise, or without understanding the overall logic, without understanding the theoretical fabric, which help to stitch the components among them, if it's not clear, it's not possible for you to move to the next level. And unfortunately, I've seen that what theory that they have been using or what theory they're trying to extend, and this is not well understood by most of the researchers, especially during their PhD journey or even afterwards, and that creates a problem. And how? That means how, in order to answer how, you need data, whether it's longitudinal data, whether it's a cross-sectional data, you need data. So I'm not spending my time. These are the popular organizational theories. So many of you, whether know or not, like agency theory, like a lot of finance and accounting student, they use agency theory, social capital theory, strategic choice theory, relational view, organizational information processing theory. So you have all these theories, transaction cost economics theory. So these are the various theories which are used for developing a model. So I always recommend people to have a thorough understanding of these theoretical things. Coming to how, in order to answer how, it could be qualitative and quantitative. So qualitative can be addressed using case studies or interpretive methods. For quantitative, you need to have a cross-sectional data or longitudinal data. Now, cross-sectional data, you collect data using survey-based instrument like Likert scale. And longitudinal data, that means you gather data from the database, like CompuStat and other. There are many established database or CMI database, whatever it may be. Like you can gather data and you can perform the analysis. That's the theory. But again, you have to have a theory. Now, question about the multivariate methods like Hire et al. It clearly provides that why you need this kind of why you need this to know. Okay, so this will be now it looks better. Okay, so first of all, you have to understand what types of relationship that you want to examine: dependence relationship or interdependence, that is the structure among the relationship among the variables. If you're testing dependence relationship, then multiple relationship of the dependent and dependent variable, that is you use structural equation modeling directly, or several dependent variables in a single relationship. In case of interdependence, you test using exploratory, conformative, or cluster analysis. So depending upon the nature of the data, you use these metrics. So what I'm saying that when you are testing the interdependence relationship, you are using exploratory and conformative factor analysis, and both constitute the factor analysis. So this is today I'm going to discuss about exploratory and conformative. So to begin with, I will perform exploratory factor analysis, and then I'll proceed with conformative factor analysis. This is what I want to teach today. So I want to caution that exploratory factor analysis is only used when you do not have a defined constructs, or you need to redefine the constructs, or you need to develop your own scale. Then you perform explorative factor analysis. Otherwise, you can directly perform conformative factor analysis. Again, that is depending upon the nature of the study, nature of the model, and based on that you perform. So unfortunately, people perform explorative factor analysis without knowing the ideology, without knowing the philosophy, and that's why they commit a lot of blunder and mistakes, which cannot be repaired during the review stage. So this is the point I've made it. So now, before I move to the practical session, this is what I have given a theoretical foundation, and I just want to have your view. I just want to have your opinion, and you can actually ask question to me before I move for the practical session. So if you need any thing to understand till now, you can ask questions so that I'll move to the practical session of exploratory and conformity both. Okay. Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, as you told, sir, first we need to do the exploratory factor analysis. So what should be the sample size to conduct exploratory factor analysis?
Yes, Muskan, and that is why I was discussing the same thing in the initial stage, actually. It's a good question you've asked. First of all, let me tell you one thing, that not for factor analysis. Remember, what is factor analysis? What is conformative factor analysis? The basic premise of all these analyses, including regression analysis, analysis of variances, of course, it is a part of regression analysis, but I'm also separating it because some people only perform analysis of variances, or you perform t-test or whatever the test you perform, which assume the data to be normally distributed. Okay. Now there is no such guideline that with this sample size your sample will be normally distributed. Actually, what happened? What is the case actually? Let me explain to you. It's very difficult to tell that what is an ideal sample. Sometimes you find that you have a 500 sample, you have a sample size of 500, and even then also you find that most of the assumptions are not well satisfied. So, it's not about that 200 or 300. Ideally speaking, I've seen that with a sample size of 150, you get excellent result actually. Let me tell you one thing. It depends upon your population. Suppose I am conducting a survey, my respondent, who are respondent? Now, generally, most of the studies are, my respondents are organization. That means I only gather even 3 responses from one company, one organization. I take an average of the 3 and treat it as a single respondent. What do you mean by here? That is, what is your sampling unit? So suppose your sampling unit is one firm, one organization. So in that case, your sample size cannot be more than 200 or 250. It's very difficult actually. Even if I conduct study with the help of FICCI and CII, and they have been supporting me for last 1 decade, still getting more than 200 or 250 sample size one. Now, in some study, the individual respondent is like a young person, or suppose you are studying about a marketing study, and you are trying to identify, or you are trying to understand that how this brand actually attract your attention. Then it could be one person. Again, you have to also identify. So in that case, what happened? You can gather data from 300, 400. The basic premise, Muskan, again, I'm repeating, that it comes from the discussion of sample size evolved from the discussion of central limit theorem. What does central limit theorem states? That means when n tends to infinity, that means when n, that is sample size, is quite large enough, the curve will become perfect normal distributed curve. Now, what is normal distributed curve? A normal distribution is a particular situation when mean is equal to mode is equal to median, which is not going to be possible in real scenario. So in that circumstance, what I recommend is that see that kurtosis value. Now kurtosis value should be between minus and +7 actually. And skewness value should be between -2 and 2. If this range is satisfied, according to Curran et al. In 1996, you can say that your data assumes to be normal distribution. And when your data is normally distributed, there's no harm in performing factor analysis, structural equation modeling, conformative factor analysis, regression analysis, whatever you want to perform, you can perform easily. So there is no such kind of formula for data, because again I'm telling you, the sample size determination formula is so complex that it will ask you to set your confidence interval. What should be your confidence interval? 95%, then your sample size will be high. If you take 99, again the sample size will become very high. So you have to understand that data collection is a Herculean task. It requires a lot of resources. So you have to understand that up to what error you can actually tolerate. You can tolerate up to what extent, and then based on that you identify your sample. So there's no actually, there are a lot of formula, but I'm not praising those formulae, because all these formulae are to be debated, because all these formulae foundation is center limit theorem. And center limit theorem logic argues that if you have a high sample size, your data is normally distributed. That's why if you have a large sample size, you'll see that your distribution is highly normal. And when data is normally distributed, that means you are quite confident to please perform all the analysis what is recommended. Okay, I think my logic is clear.
Yes, sir. Sir, according to you means if we are taking a large enough sample size, then we need not to mention or prove any formula for our sample size.
No, you're performing assumption. See, when you're performing regression analysis or when you're performing factor analysis, you have to mention your assumptions test.
Yes, sir.
And in assumptions test, you are mentioning the kurtosis, skewness, mean,
Yes,
mode,
sir,
median, standard deviation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Already
Exactly.
you're proving them actually. So why you need to explain others?
Yes,
If people again after seeing these values and again he's asking you that what is your sample size, then tell him that why not you take admission in again class 11, 12 and study statistics. That's not your problem. That's his problem.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
If it doesn't mean that, that's what I say, that Indian culture should question. Ma'am has already stated. Why don't you question? In foreign country, even a student asks questions. Hello. And there's no sir and madam. If you want to become a sir, you have to be knighted by the queen. Sorry, you can't. Everybody cannot become sir. Ask question. Even I'm professors. I'm subject to be criticism.
Yes,
I'm not a god. Okay, so Muskan, please.
Sir, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, one more query I have, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, as you told, if we are adapting some scales, already developed scales, sir, so we need not to perform exploratory factor analysis.
Why no?
Sir, but
Again,
generally,
that's a good question. That's a good question. Yes. Again, please. Yeah.
Generally, sir, what we do during PhD, as we all are, sir, novice and freshers, sir, we take questions and, sir, we actually do paraphrasing while selecting the items. So, in that case, do we need to do the, sir?
No. Paraphrasing is important because this phase is called pre-testing phase.
Yes, sir.
Let me correct you in a scientific way. It's called pre-testing, and paraphrasing you don't do actually. As a researcher, I am a neutral person. I'll contact 15 to 20 experts. The objective is that suppose I have borrowed a scale, but scale need to be adapted according to my context. Please mark my word. Adapted means in your context. Suppose I'm using a very important scale called trust, which is well-established construct in marketing literature, developed by a very seminal paper, those who have studied about that, Morgan and Hunt, 1994. Okay, so trust is a very common construct. Okay, so you are using a construct called trust. Now, this trust has been used by various scholars within the behavioral science perspective, within finance perspective, those who are studying about the how to quantify the trust. Now, when I'm using the trust in context to banking sector, my wording should be different when I'm using in context to retail sector. Please try to understand. Because the respondents, because your population change, your respondent will change. So you need to reframe your items so that your respondent can connect with their own situation. Remember, that is why we call it reliability test. What is reliability test? It to assure that the respondents is capable or able to connect the question with their own situation. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So this exercise is called pre-testing, and you need to mention almost two paragraph that you contacted these many experts, you had initially so many items, you added this much items, you dropped these items, you have changed these wordings accordingly, and you have to mention all these things in your method section actually. You need to explain the pre-testing because pre-testing is the heart of any research. Remember, when I talk about reliability, please understand reliability. When I talk about reliability or when I talk about validity, there are three perspectives of validity. We test validity through three stages: content validity, face validity, construct validity. Content validity is examined using literature. That means the items that you have, it's again supported by literature or not. Second, face validity. Face validity means that through pre-testing of your scale and constructs and items, you assure that whether the respondents, right respondents, are able to connect with their own practices or not. That is called face validity. And third, then you perform funnel large scale test if it is reflective construct again. Otherwise, you perform STMT test. Is it clear? I'm sorry, when I answer, I go in deep actually. That's a problem with
Yes,
me
sir.
because that's a British culture.
Sir,
Okay.
sir, very nice, sir. It's a very nice reply. Sir, so we need not to conduct a confirmatory factor analysis if we are like
No, no,
adapting it
no.
in our own
Again,
condition.
Muskan, again. You asked about exploratory factor
Yeah, sir.
analysis.
Sorry,
Don't
sir. Sir,
use to the
exploratory,
confirmatory.
exploratory, sir. I get
Yes,
confused.
so that's what I'm saying. I only told about exploratory, not
Yes, sir. Yes,
confirmatory.
sir. Yes, sir. Sir,
So
sorry, sir.
you should not perform exploratory factor analysis. Very
Yes,
good.
sir, sir. Sir,
So
thank you so much, sir. Sir, it was very nice, sir.
just let me complete because your question is actually serving a guide for many other participants also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what happened? You perform conformative factor analysis. Why we perform conformative factor analysis? Because you must have talked about reliability and validity. You know, in previous thesis, you see people talk about reliability and validity, but they only perform reliability test using Cronbach alpha. Again, Cronbach alpha is not reliability test of constructs. Again, mark my word, it's not a reliability test of constructs. It's a reliability test of your instrument which you have developed to gather data, not constructs. Reliability of a constructs only evaluated based on convergent validity test recommended by Fornell and Lasker 1981. Again, remember my word, recommended by Fornell and Lasker 1981 for reflective constructs. Please. So don't get confused with the term called reliability of instrument and the reliability of the constructs. There is an overlap. There is a problem. Okay. So in your case, when you have already using the scale, so you need to validate your constructs which you are using or you have used in a model. So in order to test the validity, you perform construct validity test because by the time when you develop your questionnaire and testing, you're performing data analysis, already you've gone through the content validity and phase validity. So what is left? Construct validity. I'm not going to discuss about nomological validity. Just if you perform construct validity, that's enough. Okay. So once you perform construct validity, you have to check convergent and discriminant validity. And in case if you are using PLS structural equation modeling, then you also perform STMT criteria test also. Is it clear? Because in STMT criteria test, it is applicable to both reflective and formative constructs. It is quite flexible, but Von and Lasker is strictly applicable only for reflective constructs. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, very much clear. Sir, actually, how to identify, sir, which scale is formative and reflective? Sir, I get confused a lot of time.
I know. You have to attend another session on. Then I hope your organizer need to organize. Because see, don't mind actually. You have understood my nature.
Yes, sir.
If you talk about reflective, I can talk about 24 hours on reflective. See, I believe in depth, not superficial lecture, not
Yes, sir.
jargon. I don't like
Yes,
MBA
sir.
students because they play with the jargons. I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
that kind of person. I'm actually a different kind of trainee. That's why I told you I took 6 years of PhD. I was not joking actually. I was not having fun. But it was because until unless I do not read word to word, I feel that I'm not confident.
Sir, I have attended so many classes, but I had never cleared, sir, mind like today you have given me in just last half hour and 1 hour, sir. Actually, I
Okay.
was also very much confused regarding all the things, sir. You have made me very clear till now,
Okay,
sir.
thank you very much. Now I
Thank you
want
so much.
I know Muskan, thank you very much, but let other people should ask one other questions. So then that will be very important. Yes. Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, Ankit, I think you want to ask.
Sir, generally to check the adequacy of sample before running factor analysis, we perform a test, Kaiser-Meyer-Oaklin KMO test.
That is, let me explain. Very good. That's called KMO test and KMO and Bartlett test of sphericity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm coming to now. See, by default, you have to perform KMO. Now you say that if KMO value is more than 0.5, that means my sample is adequate enough for the reduction, data reduction. Actually, SPSS doesn't perform fact analysis. This is another thing I want to correct you people. SPSS only help you to reduce the data using principal component analysis. Mark my word, principal component analysis is not fact analysis. This is again, some people does mistake. It's simple like, some people confuse between motor and generator. Don't confuse between motor and generator. Similarly, like here, don't get confused with the fact analysis and principal component analysis. Actually, let me tell you one thing. SPSS is not designed to perform fact analysis. This is why I want to correct the fundamentals. SPSS only perform principal component analysis. And let me tell you one thing, so-called finance people who claim that they're performing fact analysis, they're all wrong because they're all performing principal component analysis of the data reduction. Am I right?
Absolutely right, sir.
I show you. That's called fun actually. I'll show you. If I'll prove, practically, I'll prove practically, this is something, very important. I'll show you that. Okay, I taught like, my DBA students. Okay. Thank you, Ankit. So for asking question, I feel last question, each question will help others to learn also. See, your question has actually triggered me to explain that difference between principal component analysis and fact analysis.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I've seen that most of the finance people claim that they perform fact analysis. They're not performing fact analysis. They're performing principal component analysis for the data reduction. I'm sorry, Wait, it is taking time. So anybody have any question in between? Let the system, I don't know. Today, it's is giving me trouble actually. Tell me, anybody have any questions?
Sir, may I ask, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, as you told, sir, theory building, sir, theory actually
Yes.
we are using in our research. Sir, I have a like little confusion while I'm doing my PhD. Sir, I have taken 3-4 variables like sir, attitude, motivation, and
Yeah.
perception. So, sir, do I need to take theory of each
Of
variable
course, of course.
separately?
No, 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 no. They cannot be. I'll explain you. Don't worry. I have a very interesting answer for your question, and I know that what is the problem because I've seen that many of us must be wondering that why most of the Indian scholars face difficulty in publishing in a top tier journal because all top journals argument is that where is the theory and why you are performing, because when you perform data analysis, that means you are guided by positivism philosophy, which talks about that your model should be grounded in theory, and which I'll explain you. Let me clarify this question, and then I'll get back to you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is called analyze. Everybody know this, and then see here dimension reduction. Can you see here, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And then coming to
Yes, sir.
factor. Now when I say factor, when I say factor, like all my control, this is something okay. Suppose I take a factor, okay, like this. Now during descriptive, you perform this K1 Bartlett test of sphericity as Ankit has referred actually, because K1 Bartlett test of sphericity is an important way to understand. Now coming to the extraction. Now when you talk about extraction, we assume that eigenvalue should be greater than 1. That is by default it is set, but it is up to the scholar to assume any value, but ideally it is 1. Now what is eigenvalue? Now again people ask question, what is eigenvalue? I don't know how many of you know about eigenvalue. Anybody have any idea about eigenvalue? Anybody have any idea about eigenvalue?
No, sir.
No, sir.
The word eigenvalue comes from, how many of you have studied determinant and matrix algebra? Again, matrix and determinant, they look similar but they're different. Determinant. How many of you have solved the equations in determinant chapter using Cramer's rule? And there is a theorem called Cayley-Hamilton rule, which talks about determinant of matrix A minus lambda into I, where I is called identity matrix equal to 0, and the value that lambda which satisfy the equation is known as eigenvalues, and the column vector of eigen is called eigenvector. From there this term has come. And let me tell you factor analysis. Factor analysis is what? It's a very interesting. That's what I am telling you. It's going deep. That's why sometimes people say that they've learned this factor analysis in one workshop. I sometimes used to feel that am I idiot? I was idiot that I took so many years, and then later on I've discovered actually all superficial. People know how to click like like a lift man. कैसे lift ऊपर जाता है, कैसे lift नीचे जाता है. That he knows. That's not more than that. So that is what is SPSS is happening. Everybody is claiming to be a statistician by clicking button, That's the problem. So this value, again, this value, eigenvalue, is coming from that Cayley-Hamilton rule definition. You continue. Now coming rotation. Again, this is the most important decision which people fail to understand. There are two possibilities. One is called Varimax and one is called Promax. Let me tell you one thing. When I am assuming Varimax, I am forcing all the factors or variables to be a perpendicular. Remember, perpendicular. This is the assumption that you take in regression analysis also, that all variables which I'm assuming, they are all normal. They are all perpendicular. Am I right or not? Is it clear? In regression analysis, you assume that your data should be free from multicollinearity. Your data should be normal to each other. Am I right? These assumptions have you read?
Right, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so similarly here in factor analysis, we force the factors to become perpendicular. The question that comes, are they perpendicular? Because if I'm forcing, then you'll get factors to be perpendicular. Then the correlation matrix will be 0. Why? Because what is correlation? It's a angle. It's a cost value of the angle between the two factors. So cos 90 is what? 0. So we assume varimax. Now, if some people argue, why varimax? Why not you assume that the factors which we are extracting, they might be, they're not normal to each other. And when they're not normal to each other, then you call Promax. Okay, that's called oblique rotation. It's called normal rotation, orthogonal rotation. Varimax is called orthogonal rotation. That is a perpendicular. And Promax is called oblique rotation. Okay. So based on depending upon the nature of the rotation you perform, and again, the rotation terminology has been derived from the metallurgy science, that when we actually rotate the matrix, we get a different nomenclature, we get different factors, the grain boundary structure changes. From there, this word rotation has come. So this rotation is very much linked to your material science, basically. So either you perform perpendicular rotation or you perform oblique rotation. So I assume Promax because I believe that not all the factors are perpendicular. So I assume this. Continue. Score, no need to disclose. Okay. And option, what is a definition here? We generally suppress all the factors having less than 0.5. That means it is recommended that factors with loading less than 0.5, they should be eliminated. But I'm not going to put 0.5. I'm going to put as like this 0.1, so that this is the minimum, because I want to prove today that what is factor analysis mathematically, so that you'll never forget in your life. Because until you do not know the science behind factor analysis, you'll never learn to interpret actually. So continue. Okay. So this is what you've got. This is the structure you have obtained actually. So you can see that according to Ankit, this value is 0.775. That means, yes, the data which we are performing analysis is adequate enough for the factor analysis. Am I right, Ankit?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, I want to play a game actually. I love to play. So let's play something. You have a commonality matrix. Look, everyone, you have commonality matrix and you got an eigen matrix. Okay, this is eigenvalues. Okay. Okay. And there are how many factors? How many factors are there? How many variables were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 variables. Okay. And have been extracted into 2 factors. There are 2 factors actually. Now I will perform. I'll show you and you'll never forget in your life. Let's learn in depth. So what I'll do that. You can see that what I'll do here. Let me take this matrix, component matrix. So in component matrix, you can see that it shows, that means it has got even 0.17. So what I'll do that, let me reset again so that I want to show you in a better way. So I'll reset this value. In option, I'll make it 0, 0. So that I will get actually okay. Continue. So I perform the same. Things will remain same. Only thing is that I may get a better structure. This is the structure I got it. I got it. Now I'll copy this one. I'll copy this one. And now I'll paste it here. One thing you must note it here, that in factor structure matrix is nothing but a display of. One thing you must be noting that all these loadings actually, which you can see here, their values are neither greater than 1 and neither less than -1. Why? Why it is so? Anybody have an answer? why the values are actually between -1 to 1.
Sir, might be correlation. They are showing the correlation.
No. Not correlation. But again, why correlation values is always between -1 and 1? That is my also question. Why not correlation is between -3 and 3? Why not correlation between -5 and 5? Why not correlation between -10 and 10? There must be a reason behind that. You know what? This factor loading lambda is nothing but cos of the angle made by the two vectors at a time. So all factors are nothing but their vector, and the angle between the two vector is theta. And cos theta values lies between -1 to 1. Got it? Now you'll never forget it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is and now I'm showing game. Now, just you have started the thing. I'll show you. I'm not going to play. Okay. So sum square. Okay. I've entered. Oh, sorry. Okay, sum of the square. So sum square. Okay. Now I copy down this to all. This is the table I've generated. Now let's look into this table. Can anyone correlate with this value? Just see these values, please, and see this value. Got it?
Yes, sir. These are almost same.
Yes, not almost same, it's same because it's up to 3 decimal point and mine is more than that. अब बताइए, don't you think you can create your own? अब मैं यहाँ रोकता हूँ. So why I need SPSS? I can create my own SPSS. What is my logic? What I'm trying to explain you? That please don't become the slave of SPSS. Know the foundation. What do you mean the commonalities? Commonality is nothing but sum of the square or the factor loading in a row. And from where this term has come? Have you learned it vector 3-dimensional coordinate geometry? The distance between the two diagonal points where square root of the sum of the square. This concept has come from that 3-dimensional coordinate geometry. See, factors is nothing, it's a vector algebra actually. That's why I always sometimes I too surprised why people say that they have learned factor analysis one day, and it took years to learn factor analysis. Because factor analysis, actually, I'm a metallurgist by training, So for me, until I don't see the grain boundaries, I don't get satisfaction. And it took me actually 7 years to understand what is heavy carbon steel. So in the same fashion, being a engineer by nature, I took social science as similar way, and I took many years basically to understand the microstructure of the factor, and this is called factor structure. This is the logic. This is the logic actually. But unfortunately, we generally perform factor analysis without understanding the science, and that's why we fail to interpret what is the outcome basically. Okay, anybody have any questions based on this? Anybody have any questions? Okay, now coming to the next point. Now I can also show you another thing. let me share the screen because I have the, okay. Okay, coming to this now, again, okay, now I will select these, fine, entered, and then I copy this to this. Now look, these two values, and look, these two values. Is it clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Same. What does it mean, eigenvalue? Eigenvalue is nothing but sum of the square of the factor loadings in a given column, and commonality is nothing but sum of the square of the factor loading in a given row. I'll also explain you this. You may be asking one question to me that, like, how this has come, this one. Then you must be wondering that how the total variance is coming as 43.0. I'll also explain this. So see here. So this value is coming, like, let me take as a sum. I take this two like this, close this. I took this sum value. Okay. Now, if I take the maximum, how many variables are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 variables. So by default, each variable has a capacity to explain 1. So I'll divide by 9. Sorry. I'll divide by 9. I'll divide by 9. Okay. 9 is okay. So I'll divide by 9. Now, this percent and this percent, is it same?
Yes, sir.
Because if I multiply by 100, then you get 43.01. And look here, got it? Total variance explained. All of you, please.
Yes, sir.
So how did you got this total variance explained? Total variance explained is actually sum of the square of the factor loading in a given row, that is sum of the eigenvalues, divided by number of variables involved in the study. So each study can explain one variance. So divided by 9, we gives the at least 43% of the total variance explained by the 2 factors only. And how do you create a factor structure? Because according to the study, all values which are less than 0.5 will be suppressed like this, and the values here and the values which are less than, so this is how. So the factors like this can be so they are too high, so they are too high, so you can see that. So generally what happens, you get these 2 factors. So that means one factor is dominating over the other factor. So this kind of structure should be avoided because it seems that factor 1 is dominating over the second factor. Okay. So this is how you explain the analysis. So this is the foundation of exploratory factor analysis. The objective of exploratory factor analysis is to create this kind of factor structure like this. This is called exploratory factor analysis. And this in-depth analysis of the component matrix and explaining you each concept of factor loading, I explained you commonalities, I explained you the eigenvalues, I explained you the theory behind total variance, and this is what you learned actually. Okay, so this was my objective. So it didn't took me much time to explain you the theory behind factor analysis, but that's why I told you that, see, theory, if you don't have a sound theoretical foundation, there's no objective. So I performed exploratory factor analysis in front of you. It didn't took me much time, but what is important is that having underlying theoretical logic. What is the theory? What is the philosophy that is shaping the discussion is more important. So please try to understand the science behind each analysis. What is factor analysis? What is exploratory factor analysis? And how does it perform? That's what you've done. Now it's clear to everyone? Anyone have a question, please ask to me so that I can further explain that.
Sir, theories you were about to explain, or theories?
I'm going to go get back to the theory. Don't worry. But like I'm just covering the exploratory factor analysis in depth actually, because I know that yes, of course, if I start taking theory, yes, I'll explain you. But I generally take theoretical classes, organizational theory as a separate session. Okay, so I'll take it. Don't worry. But first, first you see that this is clear to everyone. Exploratory factor analysis. Anybody have any questions related to this? Feel free to ask so that you have a complete clarity. You should have a complete understanding about this. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. So now coming to this, exploratory factor. Now I'm going to explain you the theory behind conformative factor analysis. Now you will be wondering that how I can perform explorative factor analysis using Excel only. We can perform only using Excel. I don't need generally conformative factor analysis. You cannot perform using SPSS. You need to have MOS as a package. But I will explain you the theoretical foundation behind these all packages, and simply using Excel sheet you can perform all conformative factor analysis. You like to see the game? I'll do that. Okay, I'll do it. And how to do it, I'll also explain you. So number one, look here. The rule for the conformative factor analysis is slightly different from the explorative factor analysis. In explorative factor analysis, we allow it to split into as number of factors. But in conformative factor analysis, we actually perform this. We don't perform the rotation. We extract the factor loading from each scale. For example, let me explain you this particular. Let me show you this data. Okay. Let me show you. I think I'm sharing now. Okay. So let me share you this data and then I'll show you this. Okay. So let me show you this data. So this is the data set actually. Okay. This is the data set. This is the data which is classified. So what I'll do that, I'll perform my, factor analysis. So these are the scale, like, these are the items of one scale. Similarly, these are items of one scale. These are the items of one scale. These are items of one scale. So we'll take this kind of study. So what we'll do, let us take one construct, two construct, three construct, four constructs, and five constructs. So let me take five constructs, and then we will perform the analysis with this. Okay. Okay. So I'll take a new sheet. I suggest you to please ask question, because this is something which is very interesting, and I feel that you should be knowing all this. Very important. So okay, I've done this. So what I'm doing that, like when I'm performing conformative factor analysis, suppose this is my data. So what I'll do that while performing, like say this, how many items are there? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 items in one scale. That is, so what I'll do that, I'll analyze like this, take it to the dimension reduction here, and I'll select first 5 variables. Okay, first 5 variables I will take, like construct items, like, okay, I did this. Okay, now I will not, I don't need all these things. I just need a factor loading. So eigenvalue is 1, fine. Since it is a single construct, so I'll have to, like, you know, I can perform varimax, or no, because it will not perform any rotation, so it can be none. I score here, fine, continue, option, suppress those values which are less than 0.5, because I don't want anything which is less than 0.5, because according to Fortin-Lasker, any factor loading less than 0.5 are weak actually, so they can be excluded from the study. In extraction, I have to mention that here that it is fixed to only one factor. I have to force it. This is something which you have to do in conformative factor analysis, which you don't do in explorative factor analysis, because in explorative factor analysis, you explore how many factors that we can generate. But here, since you are already using established scale, so you force it into only single factor. This is something which you have to cautiously apply. And here, then continue. Okay. Now you've extracted these values. So this is your factor loading. So you can see that in this construct, I've used 5 items, but 2 items are found to be weak. Their factor loading less than 0.5, so has been excluded. I will take this, copy this to this, and then I will perform my convergent validity test like this. So I'll paste it here. Okay. So I'll remove from here. Okay, this is my test. So what I'll do that, I'll actually here, now I'll, based on Fortin and Lasker equation, now I'm going to perform the analysis. So I'll paste it here so that it will be better for me to understand. Yes, so this is called factor loadings. Okay, this is called factor loadings. Now, so now I'm going to, based on Fortin and Lasker, I'm going to find out the convergent. I want to perform the convergent validity. So convergent validity means factor loading that is got. I got a factor loading, it should be more than 0.5. Now, second, variance. I have to explain variance. Then I have to talk about scale composite reliability. Okay. Then it is called average variance extracted. Average variance extracted. Now, I've explained all these things. This is factor loadings. This is called factor loadings. In simple terms, or lambda values. Okay. This is about it. Okay. I'll take it like this. Now, what is variance? Variance is nothing but it is the square of the factor loading. So I'll take it like this, close the bracket, raised to the power of 2. I can copy this formula to other cell. Okay. So variance is nothing but square of the factor loading. Very simple. Scale composite reliability. Now, according to the Fortin and Lasker 1981 scale, it is equal to some square, that is some square of the factor loading, that is some square all the sum square of factor loading, close the bracket, divided by, that is divided by again comes to sum square, again all the factor loadings here plus sum of all the variances, not variances actually. I have to calculate the error actually. So error means 1 minus variance. Sorry, so I have to remove, I have to add one column here. So I have to add one column here, insert entire column. Okay, so I have to find error, which is nothing but 1 minus this value. So now you have understood that why why actually Lasker recommended the factor loading should be greater than 0.5 and ideally should be more than 0.7, because if high factor loadings means low measurement error. Got it? Why measurement error is important? Because now I'm going to explain you through the formula. That means again sum square of all these values close, then comes to this one, sum square, then I'll take again these values, close a bracket, plus sum okay, my measurement error. Okay, so I know that sometimes we miss out the sum of the bracket according to Bodmer's, but it will correct, and that's why it will suggest the correction. Okay, yes. Okay, so you got it. So I told you it will suggest correction. Then I'll copy this thing. Now average variance extracted is what? Average. Okay. Average of the variance. Okay. So what is this? What is this? What is the definition of Lasker? If any construct having factor loadings more than 0.5, having scale composite reliability more than 0.5, and having average variance extracted more than 0.5, that means these measurement items 1, 2, and 3 of the construct BDAC are converging to a single construct, and that means they possess convergent validity, and that's why we can say that yes, the construct is valid. Got it? Now you got, now
Yes,
you
sir.
understood that how this and how these values are reported. I'll show you one research paper, and then you'll have a better idea. I'll show you one of the research paper. So how, so that you'll have a complete idea. You have a complete idea. You'll have a complete idea. So this is how I've shown you Google Scholar. Okay. Let me take one of the recent work. Yes, let me take this work. Yes. So it is about information alignment and collaboration. So this is the study, like this is what we have done. Then this is called theory. With the help of theory, we develop the model. After developing a model, then we come out with a hypothesis. After hypothesis, we develop instrument. Then we collect data, and this is what. Once again, this is your convergent validities for each construct. So like for each constructs, like I have obtained the factor loading the way I shown you. You computed variance by taking the square of factor loading. Error is computed 1 minus this. And then based on the formula which I've used for an Larsker equation, scale composite reliability and average variance extracted. And for each construct, you see that the individual factor loading greater than 0.5, scale composite reliability is greater than 0.5, AV is greater than 0.5. It means that the construct possesses this value called convergent validity. And then we perform divergent, which is nothing but a correlation matrix. And then leading diagonal is the square root of the average variance extracted. And these values are less than these leading diagonal elements. That means it possesses divergent validity. So since both convergent and divergent validity criteria is satisfied, that's why you can say that constructs which you have used in your study are possessing construct validity. And then further we perform STMT test also to further strengthen the argument. And STMT test is a recent test actually. So why the STMT test has been performed? Because now Hensler has recommended. So Hensler et al. In 2015 have recommended STMT test, especially for the variance-based structural question modeling. And then you perform variance-based structural question modeling, and then you. So this is the foundation of your factor analysis. So what I shown you, exploratory factor analysis, and then I have shown you this is the conformative factor analysis, and this is what is objective to reporting. Now logic is clear. Now you can understand exactly what is the logic, underlying logic behind each presentation. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So anybody have any questions now?
So divergent validity, how did we got that?
Simple. It's a correlation matrix. And then see, it's very simple. It's a correlation matrix. When you obtain a correlation matrix, ideally leading diagonal is having 1 because correlation between the same construct is always 1. So you remove the leading diagonal element 1 and replace each one with square root of the average variance extracted of your construct, and then check that all the correlation value in the same row and column are less than the square root of AVE value. Then you say that yes, your constructs are discriminant or divergent enough to satisfy the construct validity test. Okay, I'll show it. I'll show it. Don't worry, I'll show it. Because I just want, step by step, people should have a clarity. Is it clear to everyone? Anybody have any confusion?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, someone has suggested that whenever you take a construct, there should be minimum 3 items. And a construct having less than 3 items will not give you the correct values. So is there any specific criteria like this?
It's a very good question, and somebody has suggested. Let me explain the logic.
Yeah.
If I use less than 3 constructs, I use less than 3 items construct, then what happened? Do you get a complete picture? Actually, you don't get. Actually, if I'm using 3 item construct, then you will not get the distribution properly. So variance is very poor actually. So in order to have a strong variance, we generally recommend having a measurement scale of more than 3 or more than 4 items. Suppose if I'm using 3 item construct and one of them has been dropped due to low factor loadings, what you do? So if you have more items construct, so suppose I've used 5 item construct, out of which 2 items were found to be lower than 0.5, I dropped it. And then I took only 3 items which are most relevant in my study, and that's why I got the values. So that's why it is advisable have more items construct so that it will be easier, actually it will be better. Somebody need to mute their mic when they are not speaking, basically, Okay, so I think this logic is clear, Fran. Yes, Farana, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But again, sir, it is advisable, but not compulsory, right?
No. See, I told you that statistics is not science like mathematics. That it's not like physics, like force is equal to mass into acceleration. No, statistics it has evolved over the years based on convenience, based on the situations, based on the requirements. See, some people people accept the hypothesis for p is equal to 0.05, less than 0.05. Some people accept the hypothesis for p is equal to 0.01. Some people even accept the hypothesis up to p is equal to 0.1 also. It's again convenience. Okay, that's again I told you. So, but you have to have a strong arguments in support of your selection. Why? You have to have a nice, convincing, scientific driven story actually. Is it clear? Anybody have any questions?
Yes,
please?
sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. So please guide me if I'm not exceeding beyond my time, because I get lost. So I've got enough time left.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me. Anybody have any questions? Please ask me some questions so that
So-
it'll be easier.
So you are showing the divergent validity, no, sir?
No, I'm going to show now. But first, I want two people to clear by each step. I can rush within a 10 second. I can perform all the factor analysis.
I think
That's
Kushi.
what I've been doing because I only write my paper. I never allow anyone to write my paper because that is something which I don't like anyone to touch even my paper. Come on the paper. It is better to be on my board. It looks very good, but I don't allow anyone to touch because I'm very particular, because sometimes people do mistakes, and for other mistakes you pay the price. That's why I never take risk in academic, because when you grow, there are many people who are trying to find out flaws in you. and that's very important. You have to be very cautious in the academic field. Yeah, tell me. Anybody have any questions, please ask, so that it will be very easy. Because see, I think this is a different way of learning. I think many of you have attended factor analysis in past, but I think this is a different approach probably you must have found.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. May I ask
Yeah,
one
come on.
question?
Yeah.
Sir, as we know that if we are developing a scale, created
Yeah.
a scale, then we should go first EFA, then CFA. And if it is already developed a scale and we are adapting it, we can directly go for CFA.
Yes.
So my question is this: suppose I have collected the data of 200 respondents, and later on I have collected the data of again 200 respondents. So one is data set 1 and another is data set 2, suppose.
Yeah.
So for my one scale, I will perform EFA on first 200 data set 1 and CFA on another data set 2.
No.
For my the skill which I am developing.
No, Tanu, no. Let me clarify in a
Because
proper
the
manner.
question is, I'm having another question.
I know. You have asked a very good question. Let me answer this question, because this is a very interesting question, actually. Very, very important question. And before moving to the second question, let me answer in a proper way.
Yes, sir.
I'm very slow. After collecting data for the first time, you performed exploratory factor analysis. During that analysis, you found that some of the items are not relevant to your study and you have eliminated. And then you keep on performing rotation till you do not get parsimonious structure or stable structure. You obtained a new set of constructs, new items, and then you classify, redesign your questionnaire, and then you collect data based on the new questionnaire which you have developed. Then those new questionnaire based data, you perform conformative factor analysis. Got it?
Yes, sir.
That means after exploratory factor analysis, you have to redesign your questionnaire. And that is why when you are conducting exploratory factor analysis for the first time, you do not mention the scale. You just put your all question items, 1 to 50, 1 to 60, whatever may be, without, having any scale and classification based on the scale. and then you collect data, and then based on that 50 items, you create a new you create a constructs like the number of factors, number of independent factors. These independent factors will become your new construct, and based on the items which are like falling into one basket, based on that you define your nomenclature. That is what is suggested by higher. Okay, after that you create a new questionnaire. Now you collect data based on new questionnaire, and then you perform conformative factor analysis. That's why scale development is a very rigorous process.
Okay, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes,
Up
sir.
to everyone?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Means the second questionnaire for CFA will be the one which we have rectified, the one which we have
Yes.
refined form.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sir. Then the question was actually for those scale which we have adapted. For those scale, we will use the data which we are using for CFA for our developing scale, or all means I'm having a little confusion here.
Again, why there's a confusion? I told you that for EFA you have one data set. After EFA you have got new constructs, new items, redesign your questionnaire based on the EFA output. Then you collect the data based on the new questionnaire, and then with new data set you perform conformative factor analysis. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Sir, what kind of amendments could be there on the basis of EFA and CFA questionnaire?
Why not? Because initially you have taken so many items, but in your context you found that there are many items which have lower factor loadings. They can be eliminated. That is what higher told you. That in a higher, what happened? They say that step by step. First you perform rotation. You find that some of the items get dropped. You remove the. Then you again repeat the rotation till you do not get a clear parsimonious structure. Actually, parsimonious structure means a structure which is neat and clean. That means all items will be loaded under one factor. That is a clear, is a structure you will get it. And once you obtain that kind of structure, then you redefine your questionnaire, and then you collect your own data using the new data set, and then you perform the conformative pattern. That's why it is a multi-stage process. Yes, Doctor. Yes, Sabendu ji.
Sir, there are two models. One is TAM and second is Survey-Quick model. Can we select some factors from TAM model and Survey-Quick model and develop a questionnaire?
See, TAM is basically a technology acceptance model, which was developed by Professor Davis, actually, if I'm not wrong, which was further corrected by Venkatesh and Davis, because Venkatesh was a student of Professor Davis. He created his own theory called UTAUT theory, called Universal Technology Acceptance Unified Theory. Okay, so he created that theory. So technology acceptance model is about, again, TAM is nothing but an extension of theory of planned behavior, which is again an extension of theory of reasoned action. Okay, let me go there because मैं ऐसे नहीं बात करूँगा. On the other hand, Parsuram et al., who has developed service quality actually scale to measure the gap between service and quality. Please try to understand. Technology acceptance model is talking about the perception of the managers or the users, whether they adopt this technology or not. On the other side, Parsuram et al. Have developed a scale to measure the service and quality gap. They are two different purposes. Ideally speaking, if you use ServQual as a tool, I will not publish in my journal. What is your contribution? ServQual tool is used by the industry of practitioners or the institutions within their own setup to measure the service quality gap. I, as an editor, looking for what are you challenging the ServQual scale, or you are developing a new extended scale, or you are coming with a new perspective which ServQual Parsuram et al. Scale has not. See, please. If Parsuram et al. Has proposed a scale of ServQual, that means That's good, but that doesn't mean that there is no scope for the improvement. There is always scope for the improvement, and this is the journey of a researcher. This is our struggle, actually, that we need to find out the room for the improvement. But as a benchmarking, I straight away just reject the paper. We directly use self-call of the Persuram et al. Because I don't find value in those kind of studies. It's simple survey, which actually any industry or any organizations do conduct to measure the service and quality gap in their own organization. But what is the new outcome of that study? No, nothing. I'm clear, Professor Savenduji, though I'm not from marketing, but I've read all this. That's what I'm telling you, that my habit is, I've got a bad habit of reading, actually.
Sure, sir. It's clear.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, sir. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is the advantage of becoming editor, because you have to read all kind of stuff, You can't say that I'm this specialist or this specialist. Okay, anybody else?
Sir, theories, sir, as I told you, sir, if you are taking 3 and 4 variables.
Muskan, you are touching my weakness, actually, and I'm saying that you're when you're telling about theory, I'm getting excited, and I don't know if I start theory discussion. Okay.
Sir, as when everyone is done, so
don't talk about theory now, because theory is a different discussion altogether, actually. I know you want to know, but I think I sometimes we'll take a separate session on the organizational theory, because I don't want to teach in depth. I'll show you that I teach in depth. Actually, I'm going to conduct a session for you'll be very happy to know that I'm sharing this. Is that I'll show you that why I'm so passionate about theory, because I'm going to conduct. I'll ask MDI Gurgaon team to allow some of the people, because I'm teaching on this Saturday, and this is my favorite area, actually. This is what I'm going to conduct. See, this is what I'm proposing a new curriculum in MDI Gurgaon for PhD program on theory. That is, I've given him one complete textbook of organization theory. Can you imagine? And this is my PPT based on theory, actually. That is, what is theory, and complete session on theory. Okay, so theory is different altogether, and this is something which I so because I'm going to conduct a session for them on this is FPM. So this is what I'm going to teach at FPM students there on theory, actually. So that's because actually my specialty is for theory, basically. So that's what I'm saying. Don't touch my weakness, because for when I start theory, because I actually in my Liverpool university, I'm the only person who teaches the theory, actually, in entire university. So I only teach theory nowadays. Okay. So it's a separate area, but please suggest the organizer to organize a special session on theory, because the organizers are very biased towards statistics, because they are all coming from financial background. So they have organized a complete course on statistics, but I understand that without knowing theory, there is no meaning of statistics. Okay, so anybody have any questions? Then I'll move to discriminant validity or divergent validity.
So I have one question. How we utilize the outcome of CFA in structural equation modeling?
Structural equation modeling is actually nothing, but it is an umbrella term which is used that actually cover both descriptive statistics plus exploratory or confirmatory plus hypothesis testing, and then give you entire result altogether.
Yeah, that's right.
So they give you the table altogether. They will directly provide a table. But you know what happened? What is the problem with SCM? Let me tell you one thing. Suppose your data is weak, or suppose some of the items are not supporting you, and you are entirely dependent on structural equation modeling package, and it has given you result, and some of your hypotheses are rejected. which you do not know probably because of the weak items of the constructs. So if you know the science behind structural equation modeling, you actually can clean those weak data or weak items from your study, and then you re-perform the structural equation modeling, you'll get a better result. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. That's why I performed the analysis, because unfortunately, those who are software-driven researchers, they do not know exactly what is happening with the data. What is happening with the data? They don't have a clue actually. But actually, this is what I've shown you, that this particular thing. So this is how you present actually. This is a structural equation modeling outcome. So I'm showing you this article. It's based on PLS. So what I present you, this is the model. This is the model which is based on theory. Then you have performed analysis. So this is your test, like you performed the validity test. I presented a convergent validity table, then divergent validity. Then I also performed according to 2015 recommendation by Hensler et al. STMT test. After this, I performed common method bias test, which is very, very important. Not only Harman single factor test. So, and then performed the causality test as suggested by Netcox in 2017. That is a bivariate causality direction ratio, which suggests that yes, the causality is not a problem in our case. Then you perform a hypothesis test, and then you report. And all these were performed by PLS. So these are the way you have to report all this thing. Got it?
Right, sir.
So this is how you report actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions before I can move to divergent validity?
No, sir.
Okay. So coming to the now divergent validity. So in case of divergent validity, we directly perform, we get the correlation output. So what we do? We perform correlation output. So what we do actually, let me explain you. Dimension reduction. So here what you do, that select all these
Sir, your screen is not visible.
because I think okay, that's okay. Now it's fine. Okay. Okay, so how many constructs here in our study we have? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5. Okay, now in extraction, I'll fix the factors 5. Okay, and during rotation, I have to assure that it has to Promax. Otherwise, what happens if you select Varimax, then it will give you 0 correlation matrix. And okay, fine. I'll perform this. And then what I'll do, see, this is how you can get a pattern matrix. This is the structure you get. And then finally, this is correlation matrix. So I copy this correlation matrix like this here. I'll paste it here. Then what I'll do, I'll remove these because these are the mirror image. Then I'll remove this. I'll remove this. I'll remove this. And this one, leading diagonal, 1 will be replaced by the factor loadings of, it will be replaced by square root of the average variance extracted. The square root of this average variance. That means you'll calculate AV for each constructs, and then you replace this, each diagonal, each shaded portion is replace one with the square root of average variance extracted, and then you compare all these values which are found with. So you can see that here the correlations are pretty low in comparison to square root of average variance extracted. Hence, you can say that yes, all these 5 factors that you have extracted are quite divergent enough to satisfy the divergent validity. And that's why, since convergent and divergent both are satisfied, you can say that construct validity exists. Got it? Is it good, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this one, so that's why you see that I'll show you this research article here. This research article, when I'm showing you here, see that if you see the in matrix leading diagonal element, like 1 is missing here, and 1 is being replaced by the square root of the average variance extracted. What does it mean by? See, look at the first. So look that average variance extracted for the first construct is 0.56. So when you take the square root, it is coming as 0.7. That is how you got it. And then all the rest of all these values are less than the square root of average variance extracted. That means all these constructs which you have extracted satisfy divergent validity test. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And this STMT test cannot be performed by Pls Tool, that is that's covariance matrix. It is only performed by PLS-based structural equation modeling tool. There are 2 types of PLS tool. One is called Smart PLS, and second is called War PLS. So if in War PLS again, 7 version and onward have this STMT. Older version do not have, and even in the Smart PLS, older version do not have STMT because it was invented in 2015 only, and now it has become popular. So now all the manuscripts submitted top journal, they expect you to have an STMT value. Clear? So this is the overall logic. And I made this exploratory factor analysis and conformative factor analysis so easy. It sounds very tough, but it's not that tough. You need to practice, you need to read.
Thanks.
Yes. Anybody have any doubts? Please feel free, because this is what. So I told you that it don't take much time to show you by this software or Excel. I proved it actually simultaneously, that what is the science behind how it has been extracted, how it has been developed. But that's something which you have to understand. Okay.
Sir, how we got the HTMT values?
As I told you, that STMT value only performed by PLS-based structural equation modeling tool. So again, STMT also have got a very complex mathematics, but again you can perform. But there is a package. But again, Pls will not give you STMT test results. Only War PLS 7.0 version will give you the results, or recent Smart Pls tool.
Okay, sir.
Structural equation modeling is, I think it is something different kind of session that we need to organize somehow, in future.
Nice.
And again, when you talk about structural equation modeling, it has to be 2 different. Covariance based, that is called Pls, Lisdale, they are different, and variance based like PLS, that's a different. So again, you cannot mix together. In fact, I've seen that the people fight like the 2 religion. In fact, within structural equation modeling community, variance based people doesn't like covariance, covariance based people doesn't like variance. Again, there is a debate. I sometimes get astonished. Rather than fighting with each other, we should understand that each method has got its own pros and cons. So instead of debating, you should think that which is most suitable in your case.
Sir, the method which you have shown this of divergent validity, sir, is this the same method for both kind of scales, reflective and formative, sir?
Oh yes. No. Again, you did Fornell, because my method is based on Fornell and Larsker 1981 assumptions. So when you are using formative constructs, you don't report the average variance extracted value or correlation value. Remember this thing. In average variance extracted, because Fornell large-scale equation is not applicable to formative constructs, it's only applicable to reflective constructs. Technically speaking, you should try to have reflective constructs only. And there are suggestions by many scholars that even formative constructs can be converted into reflective constructs. I think my theoretical session is over. Sakshi, I think we have completed
Yes,
2 hour sessions, and now I think people can practice their own.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, like, I think this is what I wanted to play that around the foundation. I know it's an ocean.
Yes.
Of course, I agree that you can touch upon theory, a lot of issues, but I hope that I have tried to balance between theory and practice.
Yes, sir. It was indeed very insightful, sir. And many basic terminologies and mathematics behind the EFA was cleared today. It was very insightful for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because that's a very different approach. Because I've seen that most of the training in India,
It's
or most
more
of
of
the countries, they are more like
computational.
software driven. I totally agree with
It's
you,
more
but
of
they
a
don't explain
computational
the
based
science.
rather than the basics, mathematics and
Yeah.
statistics behind. It is more computing how we can use different softwares for that. So this is something really very insightful, sir.
Okay, so in the conclusion, if somebody have any questions, they can ask final questions. Otherwise, we can break up for the today's sessions, and then we'll meet for the next.
Yes, sir. Anyone has any query, any doubts that you want to ask, sir? Sir, we'll be taking the second session of business forecasting applications tomorrow. I guess, sir, that's all for today, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking out the time for your busy schedule.
Thank you very much.
So much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
so much, sir, for
Thank you.
this wonderful session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So I think, I hope people had a better clarity.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So anyone wants to practice, they can have they have a data set, or if they have any query regarding EFA, they can do hands-on practice on EFA. Or we can directly meet tomorrow for our next session for business case studies.
I want to ask to all the participants, how did you like today's session?
It was wonderful and very enlightening, ma'am. Thanks for arranging such kind of insightful lecture. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And it was
Thank you.
logic-based. That's
Really interactive.
It was
Yeah,
very
Shak-
nice, very nice.
Sakshi ma'am, if you can arrange recordings also, ma'am, it was very interactive and it's very enlightening if we can get the recordings, ma'am.
Ma'am, all the recordings will be saved in that particular Google Drive link.
We have shared the link of a drive on the email, and all the resources, all the PPTs, and all the recordings will be available. But I request everyone to be more interactive.
More participative.
Yes. So
I
we
suggest,
can,
ma'am, I didn't, ma'am, bothered the resource person more.
no, this is for everyone. Yeah, I know, ma'am. This is actually for generic. So please be interactive and utilize as much as you can.
Now, a small request from our end, if we can get such more sessions of Dubey sir, it would be wonderful for us to get more clarity on the basic part. As he emphasized, theories are important. So we request if such sessions of him can be conducted in future also. It would be wonderful
Which
for
kind
us.
of organizational theories you're talking about?
any specific method of teaching?
No,
was
ma'am,
very
not
different?
theory, organizational theories, ma'am. Actually, the importance of theory in research, ma'am, theory building.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That was.
So what you do like at the end of the program, you share one link for a feedback, a link for a
Yeah.
feedback. So in that form, you just write your suggestions. Ki, matlab in future, what type of sessions you want, or what theme, which type of sessions you want. In future, we'll look after.
But we request everyone else to please be participative and interactive. That will help sir also. Unko bhi, they'll get enthusiasm to give more, to share more. So you also require some motivation behind that. So please be interactive. This is not just for a session for a certificate. So please, and I would request everyone to be interactive and practice the
Purana,
learning using a
please switch
statistical
off your
software.
mic. Purana, please switch off your mic. Yes.
Yes, so that gave an enthusiasm and motivation to the resource person as well to be more interactive, to share more.
Yes.
This
And I would
session
like
could have been continued for 1 more hour if you would have been more interactive and more
Yes.
attentive. So it depends on the response we are receiving. So if we want to arrange a next session, if you plan to arrange any other resource persons, then we should have that kind of response from your side as well. Yeah. Ma'am, you're on mute.
I would like to mention here that on Friday, that is day after tomorrow, when we will be having session of Professor Chandan Sharma from IIM Lucknow on time series, introduction to time series data, we will be conducting a test. I think I'm right, Sakshi?
Yes.
We will be conducting test.
A test.
Just after the test, and just mere filling the attendance form doesn't mean that you will be getting certificates, as our Pro Chancellor Sir has specifically mentioned that attendance along with passing in the test is mandatory for getting the.
And that will comprise of only the theoretical and practical aspects which we'll be covering in this session, nothing beyond that. But I would request everyone to please be supportive in this regard and practice if you can practice, because it's an hands-on on different software. So it would be very kind if you can practice whatever you learn over here. So whatever insights you're receiving over here, so it would be fruitful for you to practice at home. Yes.
Yes.
All right. So shall we end the session? Are you have anything else to ask apart from recordings and PPTs? Okay, everyone, thank you for participating and looking forward for tomorrow's session and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank
that
you.
will be study based, so let's see how it goes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. So, ma'am, shall we end the session? You can stop the recording and we can end the session.